My father says that you have been my friend. You came back for me.
You would have done the same for me?
Why would you do this?
Because the needs of the one outweighed the needs of the many.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever the case may be. Welcome to Nerds of the Round Table. Today we are talking about the politics of Star Trek. With me today, to my side, left, right, Quinn of Quinn's Ideas of Ice and Fire. Can you say hello and introduce yourself?
Hey guys, my channel is just called Quinn's Ideas now. I officially changed it.
Oh,
It's just Quinn's Ideas.
well, that much will be much easier to look up. Below Quinn, but not beneath him, Doug T. Kirk. Doug,
My crew has been taken over by aliens, though their faces remain the same.
Earthworm Jim creator Douglas TenNapel.
Pretty good.
Apparently, he will be drinking on the stream. That is tea. For those of you who are wondering, he likes to drink it out of whiskey glass. And
Gatorade.
That's right.
to Doug's side is
My left.
our friend Terry Huddleston. To everyone's left, Terry Huddleston.
What's happening? I wonder if Quinn has secretly quit putting me on with Terry, man. Don't
No,
don't put me on with Terry anymore, man.
I've never said anything.
We all sent that memo, Terry.
not Terry, man. Just anybody but him.
You know, the whole Star Trek politics thing. Can we just keep it chill? We don't have to get all crazy.
Quinn, have we ever not been chill?
Yeah. I know. People, it's like
like and share, everybody, as we do get into this. This kind of came up today because Sir Patrick Stewart decided to come out. I don't remember exactly what his verbiage was, but he was saying something about how the new Picard show will be playing on a lot of what are current day political issues like Orange Man Bad and Brexit. And
Shut up, Wesley. I have to go number 2, number 1.
I said that doesn't interest me. Quinn had the opposite. He's like, politics have always been part of Star Trek. And I do agree. Politics have always been a part of Star Trek from the beginning, but they have evolved over time. And also they've usually been more generalized in concept, not like nail on head what's going on right immediately today in the New York Times.
Disagree, Mike. Man, I'm disagreeing with you right out the gate.
Oh yeah, all right.
I think they're very on the nose, and always have been largely. And so I think Picard, if he's going to do Orange Man Bad, I think that's kind of Star Trek normal. Star Trek was always right off the headlines.
But the thing about this, the reason that I kind of got snippy about it on Twitter with everybody was because the show is not out. I hate this thing when we condemn stuff before it's even out yet. I mean, if you're going to be like, oh, this sucks, or this is being ruined by politics, or yada, 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 it's like, I'm like, wait till you watch it. I mean, there was buzz about that around Star Trek Discovery before it came out. And I was like, whatever. And then I watched the show and it was legitimately terrible. So I was like, okay, it's actually terrible. Now I'm going to hate on it. But and even I hated the ending of Game of Thrones. I hated a lot of those seasons, but I know HBO is doing another Game of Thrones show. It's I haven't said anything negative about it because I don't know. I haven't seen it. So I feel like right off the bat, I've seen a lot of people already really trying hard to dislike Picard before it's even out. And
these are right-wing snowflakes. These are all right-wings that are
No.
Discussion over. Quinn, you've convinced me to give it a chance.
All right.
We can wrap it up.
Wait, but Terry, what were you going to say? Terry, go.
So but as much as I would love to dump everything in the lap of the right, what's fair is fair. a lot of this is basically old guard versus new guard. Well, here's what I think where Star Trek succeeds overall, where Star Wars fails, is there's a bunch of different flavors of Star Trek, right? Just like there's a bunch of different flavors of Christianity, right? You might all believe in space, ship, captain is a central tenet, but you can get your Next Generation, you can get your classic, you can get your, whereas Star Wars, on the other hand, keeps trying to basically recreate the past. And there's been a church split, in my opinion, because people follow the books.
The Reformation.
Right. They follow the books. They follow some people follow the MMO canon. Some people follow other canons. So the canon's all over the place and nobody can agree. Whereas Star Trek doesn't have that problem. Like I can not watch the new one and still feel like I'm up to date on Star Trek because like you said, they kind of deal with whatever the modern problem is of the day. Back then, the original one, it was the Red Scare, was the main thrust of almost all sci-fi back then.
Yeah.
Now
Well,
it's
sci-fi's always been super political, super philosophical.
Yeah.
You know, and Mike, you're reading Dune right now. Dune is one of the most like political sagas ever. So let me, I know it's kind of like a shift, but like Frank Herbert, you know what he did before he wrote Dune? He wrote speeches for Republican politicians.
Oh, really?
For like almost a decade, for like
No
years
way.
and years and years. And so he saw like, just like a lot of the behind the scenes, like political stuff going on. I think Frank Herbert actually was a Republican. I think he actually was a registered Republican.
Everyone was back then.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
It's true.
was
It's true.
a little bit on the left, wasn't he?
Who?
Gene Roddenberry.
Gene Roddenberry was definitely on the left. He was like anti-capitalist, like all that stuff. But yeah, like Frank Herbert, he like took all those ideas because he like saw how the kind of political game worked from behind the scenes. And he put a lot of that stuff in Dune. And so like a lot of the ideas in Dune are very politically charged. I mean, he's got a lot of different political lessons going on in there. And yeah, that's something like Doug said, that's a staple of science fiction, right?
Look at Planet of the Apes, same thing.
Yeah,
Both the book and the movie.
I mean, if it's done well enough where it's not, I just don't want it to be on the nose to the point where it takes you out of the story. But like, yeah, if you're looking back at the original series and stuff, and they may have been touching on obviously political stuff of the day, but you're watching it decades later, half a century later, right? And you're just enjoying each episode for the story it's telling and the morality play it's telling, and you're not really like we're maybe just too sensitive about not wanting to have politics shoved into stuff at this point because politics has been shoved into freaking everything nowadays.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, Mike. Don't let the snowflakes talk you out of it, son. You're being bamboozled. Story, TV, movies have always been full of religion and politics.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It's part of what the medium is for. And the definition of to me, the definition of bad religion and politics is not that it's on the nose. Because I think a lot of like the space hippie stuff in the original Star Trek was just great stuff. It had the presence of great entertainment. And so the pill doesn't go down so hard when you're looking at great characters.
Dude, go back and watch Twilight Zone. Like that had some subversive stuff in it.
Yeah, written by what's his face?
Rod Sterling.
Yeah, who also wrote Planet of the Apes. Adaptation.
Dude, I was rewatching it. I was getting chills. I was like, this couldn't come out today. They had a city that basically had where one person started acting weird, and everybody thought he was an alien. He had a doppelganger, and it spreads. And then at the end, I'm muddling the plot, but at the end, you find out that the aliens basically started a rumor that made the whole city turn on itself. And that's how they knew that they could take over humans, by just getting them to turn on each other. And I'm like, that could have came out today and been on the nose. That's what good storytelling does when you have politics and good stories combined. So I agree with Doug.
Do you guys remember the opening to Next Generation season 2? It's an episode called The Child. And, Deanna Troi becomes just like miraculously pregnant by this alien being.
Yeah.
And if you remember that episode, when they're having like the discussion about what's going on, they're talking to her, and one of the first things they suggest, hey, how about you maybe you should terminate the pregnancy. And this is like 1989. So it's like, I don't know like many other shows where they would be having discussions about a woman terminating a pregnancy at that time.
Did she have feelings? Did she feel things? It's true. She's like, I feel.
Quinn,
You know,
Quinn,
feel things.
we were alive in 1989. That really wasn't that big a deal. It was. I mean, Roe versus Wade was 1973.
I mean, but like in Georgia, like as recently as last year, it's like they've been
Don't
trying.
I grew up in
let
California.
Mike's ageism fool you. We were like 10 in 1989. We weren't like,
No,
oh,
dude.
man.
I'm kidding. I graduated high school in
I was gonna say,
1989.
we were kids and didn't care about politics.
I was -5 in 1989.
Yeah, we would I hung on every episode because I got to finally, when Next Generation came out, I got to see it on the air, first run.
Yeah.
And I remember just hanging on every episode. And my friends and I, we were all conservative, right wing. And when the lefty politics would inevitably roll out, we'd all just roll our eyes and go, "Oh, brother." It wasn't like, "Oh man, I demand to have my own channel. I want my own channel just for my little thing." It's like we lived in that world better, and we were still we still did comments on it. We might have still hated it, we might have still disagreed with it, but we still enjoyed every episode of Next Generation, even in their utopian dream of the cashless future, which is total
Well, I mean,
total socialist.
you have to give Gene Roddenberry credit because he did actually nail down the one way that socialism does work in fiction.
He was also first to put multicultural crew members on, as a main cast, so far ahead of his time. And my thing, I'd always laugh because it was like space atheist. Spock was like space atheist. He was like this total progressive.
Well, he was stoic. I mean, he wasn't like a atheist as we know him today. He was
like Dawkins. And I liked how, and Terry, I liked how they were being all badass. They would go like, Spock would be like, perhaps owning another man for his skin color is probably a bad idea. It's like they were barely woke.
Well, Spock was kind of a straw man to Kirk too. Like Kirk was like, "Here's why my human emotions trump your none."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he'd be like, so.
And that was the thing that Roddenberry also had, was having Kirk. He was like the great American, he was from the Midwest.
Somebody said Spock was a hippie. No,
he
was not a hippie.
Definitely
No,
not.
he was,
Except
he
in
was
that one
an atheist,
episode
man.
where like he gets high on the flowers and he's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
As a matter of fact, I just got a great idea. Has anybody ever seen Inside Out?
Yeah.
The Disney movie. The Starship Enterprise was the mind of a hippie. Like it was all the different thought processes that it would take to get to like, all right, you have this, you have a little bit of this with a little dash of this, and boom, you're inside of somebody's mind. Which, if you look at Inside Out, they use a Star Trek Enterprise or a Star Trek kind of ship
it does kind of
console so I'm onto something there.
Also a movie for Inside Out. Also a movie for pussies.
Wow. Hey, that movie made me.
Well, I'll get when I want to know how you feel. I'll get back to you when we're both on our period.
Wow.
Inside Out.
Wow.
Feelings are going to win the day.
Not cashless. That's something that a few writers tried to push, but throughout.
No, that is. Look, you're wrong. That's what Gene.
Form of cash. Well, I don't know about
Gene.
That's what Gene Roddenberry wanted, and it was the writers' struggle to keep on that because it was like, I mean, there are some inconsistencies. Like in the first episode of Next Generation, Beverly Crusher is all like, "Oh, have this charged to my room," but then in other episodes, it's like they act like money is not even like money. We don't have money in the 24th century,
Dr.
or whatever.
Crusher, why are you asking for credit?
So there are some contradictions. It's not perfect.
From what I understand, the early, maybe first and second season of Next Generation were actually kind of rehashed, unused scripts from the canceled original series.
Some of them were, and even like some of those. There's a Next Generation episode in that first season that's literally a remake of one of those original.
Yeah,
they all get drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, some of them were. I think the child, the one I mentioned, was actually one of those from the canceled.
Hey, when the first Star Trek got canceled, all those great sci-fi writers went into television, and Koenig, who played Chekhov, wrote the pilot for Land of the Lost. That was
really,
the one where they go back in time and Enoch, the main Sleestack, the smart one. It's his future is our barbaric past. That's Koenig wrote that. And if Star Trek didn't get canceled, all these writers went into all of their television and worked on these other shows, and they were amazing.
And didn't he write some comics in the 90s too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a great writer, great sci-fi writer.
You know, I was gonna say that, like, I feel like people get way too mad a lot of times these days when something that they like or read or watch has like political ideas that they disagree with, right? I feel like if I freaked out every time I was like reading something that had like a political idea that I didn't like, I would never read anything. I've been reading a lot of Stephen King's recent books, catching up, and it's so clear that Stephen King is really bitter about Hillary Clinton losing the election. I'm just like, in every single book, he has to mention like Hillary Clinton or just like how sad he is about Trump or like what. I'm like, shut up. And like even in Dune, I pulled up this quote so I could read it. Frank Herbert is talking about, so he says this. He says, I distrust the extremes. Scratch a conservative and you find someone who prefers the past over the future. Scratch a liberal and you will find a closet aristocrat. It is true. Liberal governments always develop into aristocracies. The bureaucracies betray the true intent of people who form such governments. Right from the first, the little people who form the governments which promise to equalize the social burdens found themselves suddenly in the hands of bureaucratic aristocracies. Of course, all bureaucracies follow this pattern, but what a hypocrisy to find this even under a communized banner. Well, if patterns teach me anything, it is that patterns are repeated. And those are the words of the God Emperor.
These guys are so much smarter than us back then. They wrote so much better. They had ideas. They were making a compelling case for them. These guys are amazing.
Yeah, I mean,
Heinlein, Herbert, just Asimov, dear Arthur C. Clarke. We're so dumb. Our literature is so much dumber than the great ideas of the past. These guys are at a different level. We deserve better. We deserve them.
St. Louis.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of that, to answer that point, came from the Star Warsization. I made that up, of sci-fi. And
I know exactly what you mean.
And so now it's really hard. This is why I always said Star Wars is dumb as hell. Like the minute you think of, and not like in that derogatory, it's dumb. It's dumb. like wait a minute. So there can only be one Sith Lord, and if you're angry, you can't. Like, wait a minute, that's dumb. Like the minute you think about the actual deepness of the Jedi Order, you're like, that's kind of dumb. Like you guys were set up to fail. If you have to be pretty much a bunch of Spocks.
Oh, and they got hella, yeah. Well, you're talking about prequel lore, man. That got hella dumb.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
My kids put on Attack of the Clones day before yesterday, and I was just crushed having to watch it. I'm going, how can you watch this?
Do you know who Sam Harris is? Yeah. So like I like Sam. I've read a few of Sam Harris's books. But like I saw a video today where someone asked him Star Trek or Star Wars. And he was basically like, I know I'm going to make everybody mad. He said, I used to like Star Wars, but then I realized how stupid it was.
Oh, yeah.
But he had never seen Star Trek. So that was super funny.
Now, as a tale about generational trauma, 10 out of 10, right? Like I'm not knocking it for that. I'm not saying it doesn't do anything well, but it definitely does philosophy stupid. I'm sorry. What is the philosophy? Exactly.
But Terry, Star Wars isn't sci-fi, right? I mean, that's
space fantasy,
fairy tale, fantasy, adventure. Right. There's nothing sci-fi about it. Really.
It's reskinned Dungeons and Dragons. I get it.
Yep.
Right. But dude, that's you saying that. Most people think it's sci-fi.
That's so funny. Have you seen the movie Aragon?
Yeah. Oh God.
Dude, beat for freaking beat. It's reskinned Star Wars.
Yeah, but written by a 14-year-old. So.
I know, but it's literally beat for beat. Like the whole movie, it's like, oh, this is where they go to the Death Star, and oh, this is where Obi-Wan dies, and oh, this is it. Literally, it's like all he did was slap a dragon on the Force, and the exact same movie.
Now, the closest they got for me to where I was like, ooh, I like perked up was when the rebels in Rogue One were actually rebels. They weren't just the good guys versus the evil bad guys. It was like they were doing shady stuff to win the war. And I was like, man, I've never cared about the rebels. None of you guys had rebel toys because they look stupid, right? That would have been the time I would have bought some rebel toys instead of all the stormtrooper stuff I bought. I'm I'm ashamed to pass me, but I just never rooted for the good guys in old Star Wars. Their philosophy was so vapid. Like, we're not these guys.
You didn't vote. You didn't root for Han Solo.
Han Solo was different. I
But
mean,
the Jedis, they're
yeah.
space Buddhists, and who knows what Buddhists stand for?
and they always
The Jedi
lose.
are wannabe Benny Gesserit.
Yeah, for sure.
There you go for Dune fans.
I mean, they are.
You a Dune fan, Doug?
Big Dune fan.
Yeah.
Big Dune fan.
Same here.
I'm just getting through the first book.
It's the greatest sci-fi story ever written.
No lie there.
Nothing comes close to it.
Nothing comes close.
It's so freaking good. I mean, of course, I'm gonna say it's good. So yeah.
Yeah.
No, man, you are championing something that needs to be, because it's so dense. It does need a little bit of you do have to have it broken down to you, like a mother bird.
I see the Dune influence all over Deep Space Nine, Star Trek.
Sure.
More than like any other show, because it's got like the whole, like, that show's like about like the Bajoran like fake religion or whatever that turns out to be like kind of real, and then like Cisco is like their god or something. I forget how it goes. But it's like
it got crazy.
they took that idea a little far.
You just like it because the black captain's God.
Well, I mean, if there was he was like the Obama of captains. Like,
yes, I know he was the first.
You can vote for him because he's black, but if there was one black captain to get behind, this was the guy.
I remember how everyone was like touting, like, they have the first black captain and the first woman captain. It's like we all know what's coming next.
You know what's funny about it?
What's coming next?
We're gonna do a trans captain, man. It's gotta come.
Dude, in the future, is there even gonna be genitalia? Or are we just gonna?
Yeah. Well, what's so funny is
the future down there.
The future's like 300 years behind us.
I mean, I feel like they got close to a trans captain with like Dax and Deep Space Nine.
Yeah,
because she was basically transgender, right?
Yeah, but she'd mostly bang men.
Yeah. I mean, she did have a wife when she used to be a guy at some point.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna tell you what, in the future, we're gonna have a white man captain, and it'll be so subversive because you guys don't have to.
I know.
You know what's stupid?
Harry, my people can't get hired anymore.
Oh,
we need some more.
Do you see my tears?
We need some Oscars. We need us some Oscars, Terry.
Just like there's a line in Watchmen that says it's hard to be a white man in America right now. And it's just like, wow. And he says this to a black woman he's got tied up.
Yeah,
at the wrong time. So
that is good.
It's a good analogy. Like, oh, okay.
Watchmen also great politics.
It is. That's what I was telling Mike.
It's difficult to be a white man who wants to be a firefighter.
Okay.
So Mike, when you oppose On the Nose and Terrible Pollux Entertainment, I think you're really making a statement about how illiterate and terrible modern culture and modern writing is. It's they don't know how to be subtle or witty or interesting or character and plot driven. All they know is, even us evangelicals, we have fireproof movies now for our people. It's for the Christian ghetto.
Oh, that movie's horrible.
Yeah, but I'm saying now we only have like 3% of the writers in the world, so you only get 3% of entertainment buried by our needle. The rest of it's going to be a bunch of.
I just care about excellence, and that's why it's like I have.
Yeah,
that's why I've seen the first episode of so many things, because I'm like.
But will you agree that original Star Trek and Next Generation, totally political, full of all kinds of ideas that we may oppose, but it's well done?
Again, that's the thing. It's like I watched the original Star Trek growing up before Next Generation came out, and all those politics were, my dad's era stuff he dealt with. So we weren't watching it as it came out. If Picard comes out and the villain literally has orange skin, I will just tear my eyes.
It probably won't. But can I make a statement about like Star Trek Discovery and like the way they marketed it? Like that show, if you watch it, it's mediocre. It's like derivative science fiction. You've seen it before.
Yeah.
But they marketed it as like, oh, they I think they brought a lot of the hate on themselves, because they're all like, we're bringing diversity to Trek, and we're going to have lead females. And I'm like, but Trek has always had all of that, though.
That's
right. Like always.
Trek, like
always.
A fictional diversity show, and you're bringing diversity to it.
I felt the same way. So I'm going to full disclosure, I haven't seen the new Star Trek. But I was shaking my head because if you've seen the new Batwoman, like they shoot themselves in the foot right off the jump. It's like, woman, she's a woman, and I'm like, you know, I
Yes,
consider myself
Batwoman.
a de facto feminist, but I was like, all right, shut the hell up with the woman shit. Like, you're gonna ruin this for all of us if you keep harping. Like, she has lines like, it looks better on me because I'm a woman or something like that. I'm like, oh, what are you doing? Like, you're poking the tiger in the face with that, and you
on the nose, right?
yeah, it's on the nose. Same thing with Supergirl. The first season, I tried to.
Oh man, Supergirl was ruined for me. I was
on the
so
nose.
on board with that
It's
show. My daughter loved it, and I swear the hard politics came out and just ruined it. And it was all they had. I was just like, are you kidding me?
It was weird.
Then they threw in the Flash and started ruining the Flash too.
Yeah, I think I watched up to season 4.
I had this discussion. We were talking about. We read through part of Lone Star the other day, and I was explaining how, you know, I write my villain as someone who believes in what they're saying, as someone who, you know, every villain is the hero of their own story. But so many times, and it's all over, when they politicize something, they make freaking, you know, cardboard cutouts of bad guys, and they just, you know, they put whatever, they'll put Donald Trump's words into a villain's mouth.
Yeah, I don't like that.
And it's like,
yeah, I've seen stuff like that. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, like only the Sith speak in absolutes. When Bush says, you're either with us or against us, then the movie comes out, you're either with us or against us. And like, only the Sith speak in absolutes. I'm like, Lucas he's pumping the headlines into my Star Wars world from when I was in 6th grade. It doesn't belong here. It never was in here, moron.
And then, you probably won't like the new Watchmen show because it does deal with like a lot of like current political ideas. Oh, and like even right at the end of it, there's like a line where she's like, someone's like, "What are you gonna do? Arrest the president too?" And she's like, "Well, maybe."
But I've seen it, and I do like it.
It's kind of like,
and I think it's being honest to Alan Moore's vision.
It is.
You know what I mean?
I think he would like it if he watched it.
So I'm fine with that, and I'm fine with. And by the way, V for Vendetta, another one, totally political, full of, you know what I mean, full of worldview. That's literature. Film is another form of our storytelling. It ought to hold ideas, make cases for them, and then you let the audience be smart enough to decide.
So I you know, we all know Orwell, and we all know who did Stranger in a Strange Land. Heinlein, right? And we always assumed when we were like in the 90s, right, that we'd end up with one or the other.
That's right.
We're in 1984.
Who knew we'd end up being over medicated and over surveilled at the same time?
That's Neil Postman said that at the beginning of Amusing Ourselves to Death. He said we always thought it would be 1984.
We always thought it'd be 1984.
And he said it's
both.
It's a little world too.
Yeah, it's both, man. We are over.
Didn't you say was it Huxley that wrote?
Yeah, I think it was Huxley.
It was Huxley. Yeah.
Heinlein did Starship Troopers.
Yeah, but I'm still all for. But Quinn, I'm still all for 1984 too. I think there's a little bit of that there too.
I feel like we are definitely living in kind of like a 1984 world, like with the amount of surveillance and government spying. Who is to say they don't have devices that read our thoughts? Let me add
self-surveillance. So we self-surveil. That's what makes it weird.
Allowing it into our house. Quinn, you have an Alexa.
I know a lot of them.
Dude, I have a TV with a camera on.
Brother in your house, and you invited him in.
Yep, I'm like, come on in. I figured I couldn't keep him out. I feel like if they wanted to, they could listen through your phone, probably through your microwave or your remote. Who knows?
Google definitely does.
Who his mentor was in the NSA, and this was years and years ago. And he's like, he like knows what the NSA can do and what they do. And he's like, if you ever want to say something that cannot be recorded, you can't be near anything that even has a speaker.
Yeah, because it can work as a microphone.
Yeah. How freaking
but how wise
he
was
outside, and he would take the freaking battery out of his phone.
How wise was Frank Hubert and Orwell and Huxley and Heinlein to have their stories still be compelling 70 years later? Can you imagine writing a piece of sci-fi today that 70 years from now, people are still Quinn, and we're still arguing over, is it 1984 or is it Brave New World or whatever it is? that shows how wise, how they were onto something true about human nature and where we're heading.
Yeah.
Well, it's cyclical because they came out of a time when a lot of people were coming over here from the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. They'd seen this happening in the world, and it was sort of a warning against seeing it happen here.
I think the reason why it didn't come before that, though, is because it's also that intersection of technology where both of those books come from. Like that adds, there's technology as a tool to make farming better, let's say, and it makes life easier. But now we have technology that makes it easier for the ruling class to rule us. I'm not doing tinfoil hat. It's easier. Like I think about social control, right? Like we've had many a debate of what would you do about this? What would you do about that? Imagine if you're the system that has to control this many people, right? And you realize like, they love brain sugar. So I'm going to give them video games, drugs, sex, and rock and roll. And that'll sedate them enough for me to do what I have to do to basically keep them from rioting in the streets. Like I was watching Joker.
Phantom at Arcadia.
I was watching Joker, and Joker starts to riot for everybody who's watched it. And I'm like, we don't riot. Like people don't riot. We have too much stuff. Like look at the stuff I got behind me. I don't want to abandon my stuff.
Have you not watched the news?
Yeah, I watched the news. They don't know. Those are like they go out and protest, or I'm talking about like.
He means how do you get the general public under control? You can't get them under control by riots.
Okay. And it doesn't. Yeah, we don't go out and just flood a downtown, burn it to the ground. We'll go tear up a Chinatown or something lame like that. But we don't. As by and large, Mike Miller and Terry Huddleston and Doug and Quinn aren't going to go out and sacrifice all the stuff we built up.
Well, not
to
yet.
Let society burn it down.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Look, I want to say like how I really like the Hunger Games books for the most part. I feel like they ended badly, but she was Suzanne Collins. That's who wrote them, right? I think.
No, Suzanne Collins.
Susan, who wrote Hunger Games? What's her name?
I don't know.
I read the first one. She was a Nickelodeon writer.
Who I can't think of her name.
I'm looking it up right
Suzanne
now.
Collins. What are you talking about? I knew it was Suzanne Collins.
Suzanne Collins. Sure.
Suzanne Collins. Anyway, she was playing with like a lot of Roman ideas, even like the main girl and guy are like based off of like Roman gods. And like Comic Book Girl 19 did a really good video out of this, right? And like even like the new reformed United States, it's called Panem, right? And it's short for Panem et Arcadia, which means bread and circuses. So the whole thing, what the Hunger Games was that it was like, we give them this thing to watch and like have to compete for, so they don't like rise up and riot. And that's like similar to what like Romans would do with like the Colosseums and stuff. It's like we give them bread and circuses, distractions, so they don't rise up. And that's an idea that I see in like a lot of science fiction, a lot. Like that's even like in Dune to an extent. So that's interesting.
Yeah, violence is entertainment to keep people satiated.
Or just distractions, we got to give them something to be distracted by. Cheap distraction.
It's all psychological warfare.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Quinn.
That this has all happened in China already, and it was funny because I was watching a video about cryptocurrency and how there's this city in China, I can't remember what it is, Shenzhen or something like that, that literally nobody uses money, right? Everything is on their phone. They use WeChat to pay for everything, and like everything, and the government like is involved in WeChat, and so the government knows everything you're buying and everything. And this guy who's interviewing this girl in the town, he's like, "Well, aren't you concerned about the government knowing that much information about you?" And the girl's just like, "Oh, the government knows everything about us." So
yeah,
it's like
that's not how I am. I've given up.
Here's where I what annoys me though, because you get the smug American going, "Yeah, in China, you think our government ain't looking into that? You think they're not like going to that? Like
I know, but we don't go. Well, I guess some of us do.
We do. If you use Google, you do.
We do.
I've used Google. I gave up so long ago. I'm like, well, my ID is already. I'm not going to get off the grid.
Yeah, I'm like thinking like the United States government is like the most powerful like entity like that's ever existed. I don't think that.
Yeah, but there's a difference because we have people in our government who fight against government intrusion.
True.
China, it's communist. Government intrusion is.
Yeah.
But the NSA was spying, and we found out about it several years ago. And that was like they were doing it, and they did not care about violating the Fourth Amendment.
Well, but nothing compared to Google spying. I mean, they have
Google,
a
that's
full
way worse.
profile. They have a profile on your whole
Wait,
mind.
Mike is trying to say something.
You can't just argue because there are people. I mean, you look at the Pauls, you look at the libertarians, you look at the people coming in. They don't want the government doing this, so they will actively fight against government intrusion. It's different than having your entire government being like, yes, absolutely, let's intrude on.
Dude, here's where I'm cynical against that. Like, watch The Wire. I know I hate to reference watch this TV show and you'll get enlightened. But anybody that tries to come in and subvert the system becomes the system. Like, it always happens. Like, it's never been. The system itself is so ultra powerful. I don't care if a left, right, whoever gets into it, the system maintains itself.
You don't just give up, Terry.
I don't even think it's possible to want a change system when we don't even know how to work within the system we have now. That's what I'm saying.
You put principled people in there to fight against it, and they're the ones that end up, showing the stuff that the government's doing, and it's like, you got to stop this.
I say read God Emperor O'Doon, because
don't just lay down and let the government run over.
I mean, God Emperor O'Doon is all about like this like uncrushable government and like rebels, and you've got the God Emperor being all like, rebels are all born out of the same pattern, and it's all an ultimate bore to me because I've seen them in all their different. I've seen every kind of rebel, and ultimately I can make them all join my cause. He's like, ultimately they all come to me. He's like, at the end of the day, they all come back to me. So it's like, I don't know that, but
yeah,
I'm a little tipsy too. I'm drinking beer, so
it's just like, if you tell me a system that's been, let's say, the American Revolution, we're like, down with the Brits, their monarchy, power over us, blah blah blah, and then we pretty much form a government that's kind of similar. And we have class systems and everything's intact. It's just we have new rulers now that aren't British.
I think the point is that, like, I think it's possible to not do that, but it's like really difficult.
It's really difficult.
I think it's totally possible to form a type of government that can maybe like avoid most of these. I don't know if there's a perfect government.
Terry.
No, of course not. But
Terry, I think you missed the whole Constitution thing in the formation of our government.
I mean, we can't even agree on that, though. Like, that's not something people agree on. Like, hey, Constitution settles all the arguments.
It creates an objective ruling body of that. We all agree to the rules of this game, right? That's what it means to be an American. It doesn't even matter where you live. You're an American if you agree to the rules of this country. That's the Constitution of the United States. And yeah, there are people who want to fudge the Constitution, people who want to warp the Constitution.
So you're saying it should have never, the Constitution should have never been amended, is what you're saying?
Got the president, you've got the executive, you've got the judiciary, you've got the House, and these are all playing by the rules of the Constitution.
On paper, I agree with you, but it ain't worked out like that.
Just like the king, who has ultimate power, can do whatever he wants.
Yeah, and you don't have a central control, Terry, because you don't have one party ruling everything. You have the parties fighting each other, which is why the two-party system is great. Because as soon as one side says I'll control everything, let's say you have an AOC, is she going to come in and do the Trump party's will with the government, or is she going to come in with her own agenda? Or are you so skeptical that they're both in cahoots and AOC, it's all a big puppet show, and AOC really is on the same side with Trump?
Here's what I've seen. I'm gonna tell you what I've from data that I've collected. And it's nice. I know, like, political football, pick a side, but every time the financial system has gotten in trouble, that's who they make the fastest. I'm talking about nebulous thing, government, matter left or right, movements to bail out and fix the problems.
Yeah.
Right. So I've come to the conclusion that our system cares about our financial systems more than any other system. Right. And if you're not contributing to that financial system, let's say you're super lower class, poor, broke, busted, disgusted, our government necessarily doesn't care about you as much, whether it's left or right that's in office. This isn't a Republican bad, left is good, because I've seen a lot of change happen under Bill Clinton. He locked a lot of my people up, like a lot. on the war on drugs that was started, I think, before he got in. He just perpetuated it, right? And so I'm not necessarily saying that if we get the right party in, then it's going to be a utopia. I think we have to fundamentally, radically change either how we apply the Constitution or figure out a way to, like I said in a previous podcast, do bottom-up transition. Because we always seem to want to give people that are powerful a little bit more power to help us out down here. It's kind of how our government system works.
I absolutely agree with you. We should end the war on drugs.
Yeah, well.
No, I think we should do a full frontal assault. I'm all for the war on drugs. We lost the war on drugs, which is why you have massive crackheads everywhere. Talk about a drugged up public.
Yeah.
Pot, crack, pharmaceuticals. Anyway, that's getting way political. And I don't want to get all conspiracy about it either, but I just want to know, Terry, who would you put in charge? Who do you trust from the ground up? Who is not corrupted by power? When they get to the top, they won't take advantage of it.
So me and Mike, I think Quinn was in on that too. The last time we were talking about states versus the federal government, right? And how each state's supposed to be a laboratory for
That's right.
different things. But what I noticed is that on a mayoral, right, on a mayor level, like I've seen massive change right here where I live, depending on what mayor's in office. More so than who's in office as a president.
That's right.
Like, I feel like that's more glacial change, but mayoral change is like instant. Like where they're saying, "Hey, we're building a Martin's downtown with a 40 story skyscraper." That's a big deal for us right here where we live, because we live in a small town. So I feel like power needs to be concentrated more on the lower level person.
It's supposed to be the more local it is, it's supposed to have more power, not less. The idea that the president runs everything is not why you have all the way down to mayors and senators and people who represent your state. But we have federalism is taking over, where over the last, I'd say 60 years, the president's gained too much. The one branch of government has gained too much power.
Federal government has taken on too much power.
You know what's funny about to bring it back to Star Trek?
Get us back on topic.
In Star Trek, since you brought up federalism, it's right there in the name of the Federation. So they have this kind of thing where it's like you would assume there's a president or like a prime. I'm not exactly sure who is at the top, but they have like a hierarchy and they've got like people underneath that. But like generally in Star Trek, and this is something that I guess fans of Star Trek that have seen like a lot of the shows will pick up on. If at any point in the show a new admiral is introduced, the admiral is going to be a bad guy. It's almost a guarantee. So there is in Star Trek an element of like kind of F bureaucracy, because it's always like the bureaucracy is getting in the way of us making decisions.
To that point, I have something interesting to point out. In the earlier Star Trek, the original Star Trek, pretty much all the way through, when the Prime Directive is mentioned, it's used as something that is wrong.
Yeah.
Right? It's like there is moral truth. You can't enslave people. You can't drug a population to have them do your bidding, right? Yeah. And so when Kirk and the crew deals with, well, actually, it was usually Spock that was for the Prime Directive.
Prime Directive.
But as you move into the next generation, again, probably not so much in the earlier episodes, but towards the end of after Gene Roddenberry died, towards the end of the show, that Prime Directive overrode moral common sense.
That's right.
Well, there's an episode of TNG about I forget exactly what was happening, but basically there was one planet that was wealthy, and it was providing a cure, quote unquote, to another planet. Yeah. But they discovered in the episode that it wasn't really a cure; it was a narcotic drug that they had gotten these people hooked on. And so Picard is like, "Oh, I can't do anything about it because of the Prime Directive." But he figures a way around it by basically like not transport. I forget exactly what goes down, but he basically forces these people to go without the drugs. They think they're going to die if they don't have it. He's like, "No, you're just going to go through a withdrawal period, and then you'll be fine." So he's basically guaranteed that like the people of the planet will go through that withdrawal period and eventually be fine. But yeah, a lot of it is about like kind of like how do we skirt the Prime Directive. But I also do see that it's there for a reason. The Prime Directive is there for a reason, because if you go in and there is an episode about like how it goes horribly wrong when you ignore the Prime Directive, and that's Who Watches the Watchers. Remember that episode where Picard, where they're like spying on this little planet, they're inside of this rock, and then they get seen. And then like people start to think that Picard is God, and it gets out of hand.
Right.
And so there's elements about like, oh, like why it's all about like, I think what Star Trek is really about is like looking at things on a case by case basis. It's like, there's not always a right way to do every single thing. You know what I mean? You got to discuss this sometimes.
They're trying out ideas and seeing, giving you a counter example to something, which is, I think is really, it's where wisdom comes from. Even if you disagree with their outcome, it's good to have ideas challenged.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It definitely is.
And
now,
I think
what about when people violently react to you challenging their ideas?
I'm always suspect of that, because
Right?
Today, I think the reason why we're all idea snowflakes now and in fear of having our ideas challenged is because we have such a weak grasp of truth. When you have a weak grasp of truth, you fear having your ideas challenged. Sure. If you know the truth and you're confident with it, you're like, yeah, do your best. Let's see if we can shake some weaknesses out. Mm-hmm. But I think most people don't have a real core conviction that drives their beliefs. They've taken on all these things from the internet or from their culture or from their families or whatever. Culture, yeah. And so everything's a threat. It's like, I don't know why this is wrong, but whatever you just said, I've been programmed to revolt and get angry about it. And so you're bad. Culture. Mm-hmm. Orange man bad, and you're brown man bad, and I'm white man bad. And that's all we know. And they can't articulate even the why it's true in the first place. And they can't articulate why the counter argument is wrong. They only know make fun of them, call them a name.
Right. And I'll be the first to say I do not like Trump, but at the same time, I have voted conservative more than one occasion.
Good man.
Right? So it's not a matter of I'm black and I'm liberal and all that. And I actually will go on to say that, and I said this before, a lot of brown cultures are hard conservative. They're more conservative than any white person in this country. Absolutely. And hard right. So right, you guys were like, hey, you know what? I don't think you should make your women dress up like that.
Yeah, hey, easy on the right, guy.
Easy. You know, I know we believe in the same books, but we kind of adapted and evolved, right? So,
and
I don't think that's that's because you got one side. Here's the deal: you got a side saying, hey, I want to put more money in your pocket and bring more jobs to America. We also hate a subsection of brown people. Vote Republican, right? I'm just telling you how it sounds. I'm not saying it's true, but trust me, there's a reason why they're not getting that overwhelming support. Liberals are like, hey, we want to give you a lot of cotton candy, and here's all this stuff, and we're gonna coddle you to death, but we don't want to personally kill you.
Give you extra money so that your kids can grow up without fathers.
There you go.
Well, when you're talking about a politician, I don't see the altruism. I think one side sees as we can use you in one way, and my side might say I can use you if I give you more of your own money. So I don't go to the intent of either side. I just want to know which one is more true. The one that's more true really is we got to give you more of your money.
I want more money. Definitely want more money, but at the same time, I do think that we need a social fabric. But go back in mind what I said too. I think on a tiny city to city level, it's why you live in San Diego, Mike. You like San Diego. You hate California, but you love San Diego.
It's the best city.
He's shaking his head because it's a liberal apocalypse out there once you leave San Diego. It's Mad Max out there for you. So me, I'm a moderate. I'm politics fluid. I can take a little bit from here, a little bit from there. But at the same time, right now I'm seeing both sides are on fire, right? Yeah. And I've never seen. I told my wife, here's a scenario. So Trump gets another 4 years. It's gonna the left is gonna implode.
It is. Right? It is. They're gonna absolutely. It's gonna get ugly.
The left wins. The left wins. Right? They get Trump out of there. the left is still going to implode.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why. Both sides are going to implode. We're not going to have the same right and left after this is all said and done.
Yeah.
It's because basically we've got to the zero-sum game where they want to basically obliterate the other side. You guys are talking about a two-party system, but if you're being honest, neither party wants to, like the constituents are acting like they want to go total war on the other side.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what scares me as a moderate. Like, oh, that's scary. Like, wait, guys, hold up. There's a lot of people in the middle.
Pants.
There's a lot of people in the middle.
Moderatism to die.
Nah,
Cynthiaism needs to die.
Go. I'm with Quinn on that one. Get off the fence.
Nope.
You're splitting your testicles.
Look. We need to get rid of this myth that center means good. Pick a side.
I'm not saying it does.
I mean, look. There's something going on with the Democratic Party right now. An interesting thing that's never happened before. There's a war within the Democratic Party. They're fighting each other. There's a war between the Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton types, and the Bernie Sanders, Andrew Yang non-establishment types, right? And if Joe Biden gets in there, one thing is going to happen, and that's very different to what would happen if Bernie Sanders was elected. Bernie Sanders, I'm not going to lie, like Bernie Sanders wants to do some pretty radical changes to the system. He's a democratic socialist. I mean,
he's just a socialist.
It's going to be Bernie, by the way.
How is it?
I'm calling it now. He's gonna take the primaries, and then Trump's going to win.
Well, that's what I don't understand is socialism is in its very nature democratic. So I don't understand the whole democratic socialist thing.
I mean, it's just to distinguish from people that.
It depends on how you use it. Like I'm not gonna lie, people that don't like socialism use it like the N-word. They're like socialist.
Yeah, and
I'm like, dude, it ain't that serious. Like we have socialist programs that we've had for a long time that your father and father's father enjoyed. But all of a sudden you want to get punk rock and now you don't want any government handouts. Like, well, I'm sorry, that highway is a government handout. Like, I'm sorry, that farmland that was given to those farmers in early America was a government handout. Like, it does happen and it can work in limited.
The highways paid for with gas taxes so the people using the highway are supposed to be paying for the highway. It's just, it all becomes fungible and it becomes, whatever. But no, socialism is by its nature democratic. That's the whole point of socialism. The end goal. Hold on. Oh, all right. Sorry. Anyways,
end game of socialism is what you're saying.
But a lot of people equate socialism with pure communism, though.
They do.
I do.
Any government spending is somehow socialism. No, there's such a thing as a government that is not socialist that still has to do governmental things.
Someone said, "Okay, so back to Star Trek." Speaking of socialists, Star Trek is totally a socialist society.
From Next Generation on, I would say it's really knowledgeably advocating for it.
Mm-hmm. Because they've got they're post scarcity. They've got replicator technology, so they've got like potentially like an infinite supply of resources or whatever. And then also they'll if you need healthcare, doesn't matter what race you are, it doesn't matter what species you are. Like anybody can come in and get healthcare. They'll grant anybody asylum.
If all of that stuff was realistic, right?
If you were post scarcity,
true. The most realistic version of that future would be that ship on Wall-E.
Yeah,
where everyone's all fat and stuff. Yeah,
dude, what are you talking about? America's fat already.
I know, right? We're already.
But look. But
I told you.
But that's the thing.
Look at me. I'm fat.
Wait. Humans not only have to. If we were to get to that Star Trek universe, humans not only have to evolve technologically, but also philosophically. We have to rethink what it means to be human, right? Because in Star Trek, people live and they work to better themselves. They don't work to just I'm going to get rich. They work to see how far can I push this envelope and become a better person and a wiser person, and how many skills can I earn? You know what I mean?
That's fantasy.
I mean, perhaps not. I mean, I don't know what's possible. I mean, given we've been given this incredible reality to try things and then do stuff, and maybe we can achieve great things.
There's people today who work to better themselves. That's not just a socialist dream.
No, that's people like probably all four of us self-driven people are the exception.
Yeah.
Most people, if you give them, $5,000 a month, will sit on their ass and play video games.
That right there is false.
Dude, I have a freaking nephew.
Everybody's got the anecdotal relative that sucks, right? See, this is what drives me crazy about people that believe this. I say, look, we've already let the people that are gonna sit on their ass and play video games, but I can still use the $5,000. Like I can still use it, you can still use it, you can still use it. But we're like basically saying, look, you got 4 kids, but one of them's a mess up. I'm not gonna give any, I'm gonna get all 4 get nothing, is how the system is now. Whereas I'm saying, look, yeah, we're gonna have some bad eggs, just like we got bad cops and good cops, right? But we don't get rid of all the cops.
No, but you're in Star Trek universe. You don't show all the fat, lazy slobs. You show all of the get up and go, and I'm gonna be in Starfleet, and I want to make the universe a better place, people, right?
Well, that's what you just did.
Planet Earth just covered in lard at this point, and like
I would love
no, that's a dark fantasy. That's a fantasy on the other end, where you're saying people can't be trusted with being given resources, so they'll just eat themselves to death.
And there are people who can't be.
True.
But the people who can be are still funding the people.
Maybe by
Terry-
Star Trek time they made leaps and bounds in just like the way human beings thought about these things. I mean, I don't think it's entirely far-fetched for you. I mean, just like the general human mindset to evolve and shift over time.
But you know how it is far-fetched? If you go to all of the countries who have been more or less socialist over in Europe for the past 50 years, and you compare their innovation, their invention, their discovery to America's, which has been a primarily capitalistic driven, dude, we have patents 1,000, 10,000 fold as many. Capitalism is what drives innovation.
Capitalism. Greed is gonna cure cancer, not altruism.
You can go look it up, dude. Go look.
Greed will. And Terry, if you want people to have more money, then you're all for free market capitalism, because the problem with socialism is they want to put the control of money under the benevolent government.
Look, don't talk to me like I don't know. Look, I do capitalism every weekend, right?
Yeah, you do.
I compete
Free
on a level playing field, but at the same time, right? When you got a free market, right, where like somebody can steal Mike Miller's art, put it on paper and sell it, then I can be like, hey, free market. Or I can be like, we got to regulate that. No bootlegging, right? No stealing other people's intellectual property, right?
Laws are supposed to be to protect one person.
So
the other.
I'm saying that there's no reason. See, because people act like socialism and capitalism are like oil and water, when in fact we've lived with both for a long time.
Indeed.
Like, quit acting like they're diametrically opposed.
No, but I just resent socialism. Is all I'm trying to get it out of the government. I agree. There's some socialist programs we got to get rid of them. I'm not talking about welfare. I'm not talking about a safety net. I'm saying the idea of putting more and more of your money under someone else's control because they know better than you, that I'm opposed to. And that is the socialist dream. Is you can't force people to do something moral with their money unless it's under some kind of central control. That's why I oppose Bernie.
There you go. And I'm not pro Bernie, but I'm pro. Here's one thing I know.
Bernie will fix that 3% black unemployment problem we have right now. He'll fix that up good.
Here's what I know. It's easy to sit in our first world comforts and talk about what we hate about whatever country or whatever philosophy, but we also benefit from that same. I can go, man, I hate child labor. I hate it. It's bad.
I know.
It's evil. It's evil. China bad. You know what I mean? China evil, right?
Yeah.
I can't stand what they do, but yet I get to benefit from the system, right? And that's what drives me up a wall with people. They're like, we should just get rid of like you don't know what you're saying. It sounds good on paper. In a Star Trek TV show, it'd be like, hey, what if we got rid of all inequality and all that, and nobody needed anything, so we didn't have to do that pesky socialism. Then but the problem is with my greed, I want my toys. And
but Terry, that's just saying we're all hypocrites. It still doesn't make child labor good. It means
I love child labor. I got 5 kids.
There you go. I'm the same way. I think we got to figure out a way to get our kids working.
That's right.
Somehow. But that's a whole other topic. I'm just saying that we simultaneously hate systems and benefit from systems in equal measure in our country.
Sure. I agree.
I think you have a different definition. I think you're again using this. Anything the government does is if the government's doing it social. That's not socialism.
I'm not saying that. That
seems to be what.
But here, let me give you something to chew on. Let me give you something. What I'm saying is the government should do some straight up socialism.
I disagree.
Yeah, I know you do, but I'm not saying everything they do.
Not a good answer. It's not a good answer, Terry.
I know you guys don't like it, but I'm telling you, you're benefiting from the little bit of socialism they're doing now.
Yeah.
You are taking time from Quinn. Quinn.
No, I just thought we were going to talk about Star Trek.
All right, we'll get back on Star Trek. So get off Star Trek economics.
No, we're at an hour, so real quick, each of you, Quinn, Trek, Kirk or Picard?
Kirk or Picard? Kidding me? Like, look, I Picard, always and forever.
Oh no,
Doug,
Kirk, because I'm a man.
Picard because I'm not dumb.
That's true.
You know what? I'm gonna be
Picard's so much smarter. It's true.
I'm gonna be subversive, Janeway.
No,
get out of here.
Yep. Just to piss Doug off.
You should have said Archer. You should have said Archer. That would have made me more mad.
Sounds like a chain smoker.
That's where Jaw did it for me, man. I'm saying Janeway.
I gotta go, Kirk. Thanks everybody for being here. Do like, subscribe, share. Please subscribe. Let people know we do this all the time. This kind of fun stuff.
Subscribe,
What?
Subscribe and like it if you want to see more of it.
And Quinn's book, Tadia, as you have been seeing this whole time, you can get on the mailing list in the description. Please do. And you can follow him on
Quinn's Ideas on YouTube and Ideas of Ice and Fire on Facebook and Twitter.
Right on. And Douglas TenNapel, people can follow you at
Doug TenNapel on YouTube.
Terry Huddleston, how does anyone find you?
Just yell really loud.
He'll be here.
Yeah, just TerryHuddlestonArt.com is my website. Terry Huddleston Art is also my Instagram. And there you go.
And please do support my comic book at LoneStarComic.com. Link in the description. Once again, I want to thank everybody, all my guests, and I want to thank all the fans that showed up to watch us. And you guys have a great night. Live long and prosper.
I'm doing it, but you can't see.